focus on learning and developing, like building the wall slow so you build it correct. What I mean by that is like, don't get in the rush to make sales at the expense of bad habits. Learn how to sell solid accounts, do it the ethical way, and learn from those around you. I think one of the things that helped me be successful is I just was so eager.
It's that time of the year, the #1 door-to-door conference in the world, Door-to-Door Con 8, January 7th through the 9th. Now, we have done this now 8 years, and we have over 60 amazing workshop and panel speakers where we dive into leadership, recruiting, investments, sales skills, different industries from pest workshops to solar workshops to retail. And we have found people leaving transformative. This year is going to be extra special. We're adding an Owner's Day for free on the 7th. So come to Salt Lake City, Utah, get your ticket, come celebrate this amazing industry that we live in, and come as a team, learn as a team, and leave as a tribe. Don't hesitate, don't wait, don't be like, oh, I'll get it later. Click the link below.
What up, D2D World? JP here. We got a special guest in the house talking about Golden Door Podcast. We got Marshall Hawks. Marshall, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, thanks for having me.
All right. So, hey, this is not your first rodeo with the Golden Door. What number Golden Door is this for you?
This is number 4.
Number 4. Yep. Okay. And you had an interesting story. First one is in 19. Walk us through, I think you said Golden Door first year as a rookie?
Correct.
Okay,
yeah.
So everybody hates you for that. So just to get that out there, like this guy, right? Like,
yeah.
But let's walk through from, was it 2019 to today? Walk through your door-to-door history to educate the listeners and who you are.
Yeah, so I started in door-to-door when I was 21, year after getting back from my mission. Got into solar. I was a solar appointment setter for a company here in Utah. Transitioned.
You want to shout them out?
Yeah, Intermountain Wind and Solar.
There we go.
So if you ever need solar here in Utah.
Intermountain Wind and Solar. They're still around.
They're still around.
So they're
like one of the OGs.
OGs, yeah.
Yeah, they didn't even have, first year with them was like the first year they even had a door-to-door program. We kind of campaigned that. And then I moved into being a closer at the company. Did that for 2 summers while going to school. And then I made the switch to pest control. And that's when I got first year Golden Door as not a true rookie because I had sales experience,
sure,
but rookie in pest control. That was 2019.
I think the church got a little uncomfortable right there that you didn't count those 2 years of your mission as experience.
Those are probably the best and most valuable years that prepared me. And then I kind of took a step away from door to door, went into ownership and opened a branch with Fox Pest Control, where I was there for a total of 4 years. We built and scaled that branch, me and my business partners. Still would sell when I had time. I think first year I did 200 accounts, just kind of knocking on Saturdays because you had a ton of other responsibilities. Every company does ownership a little bit different, but especially that first year opening the branch was, a lot of other things on my plate. And I just sold, a ton of accounts. So I didn't feel like the need to really get after it that first year in ownership. Did another year of ownership, continued to build, scale the branch. Third year in ownership, decided to get Golden Door again. That was actually probably one of the hardest years because I did it really knocking from 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the evening on because I had everything else in the morning and in the afternoon.
I'm picturing every alarm rep right now going, I gets it.
Yeah. So that was a challenging year because I did 875, barely got Golden Door, but it felt like I did 1,500, because I was doing everything else. Fox ends up selling last year, and that was back in April. Went out for 8 weeks. We had like an earn out with the acquisition, helped us get that, and then this year with the plate kind of clean and a full head of steam, I decided to go really try to touch my ceiling and see what I was capable of now that I had 4 or 5 years in the pest control space. I'd gotten a little bit better, and that's when I set the record this year.
So let's talk about the record because I am learning that one of the great things about Golden Door is 8 years ago it didn't even exist. Sam has this idea of creating Golden Door, kind of an industry benchmark. And now we have people that, made your decision to go out and have, you just said, I made my decision to go get a golden door, right? Well, the pest control company doesn't give anything for that. The industry doesn't give anything for that. It's like this badge of honor. You show up in January, you get your knocking golden door and you get recognized. I think it's just an amazing, truly one of, I think, Sam's greatest innovations in the space. And we had a situation, I told this on the previous podcast, I just remembered it. We get a phone call to our D2D experts line, and I don't know who was on the phones that day, and they hung up the phone. It might have been an email, but either way, the woman was like, every single morning I get woken up by my neighbor who stands up and starts screaming, I'm going to win a effing golden doors and F so-and-so, I'm going to beat his ass. Right. And so we got some market across the world. Some rep is motivated to wake up, yell loud enough his affirmations in his house to wake up his neighbor. And the neighbor finds us, the owners of the Golden Door Award, and emails us and says, can you not give it to him? Can you disqualify him because he's a bad neighbor? So I think it's just great that we have this award that gets a guy who just sold a company, sold off a branch, to get up and go, you know what, I'm going to go touch my ceiling. I'm going to go see, if I can go set a mark that hasn't been touched before. Let's talk about that, Mark. So what was this year like for you?
This year was like a whirlwind of emotion. I mean, I felt like there was so many curveballs I didn't see coming, new challenges I'd never faced, a lot of new relationships I had to navigate that I didn't have before. So when Fox sold, I decided to kind of go independent. I wanted to go touch my ceiling for Fox the entire way through. They arranged with the buyer of that acquisition, Home Team, for me to go campaign a door-to-door program for them. They'd never done door-to-door. There was a lot of challenges in that because it was like trying to fit two puzzle pieces together that had never been fit before.
Right.
I ended up selling for Fox later in the year. And then ultimately decided to kind of part ways and go sell with a buddy of mine who had a marketing deal set up with Ninefold. So a lot of challenges, a couple different markets. I've knocked in tons of markets, so that's not usually the challenge for me, is adapting to a market. But those relationships, selling different contracts and different packages had pros and cons. Selling for one company might, limit you on what you're able to sell or what kind of area you're able to knock. And then, the opposite in other circumstances. So
how many accounts you put up this year, or what's the revenue, or both?
So I serviced 1,730 accounts. 35 of those were mosquito. The rest were general pest or general pest mosquito bundled as one account. And then I serviced 1.523 million. So just a little over 1.5 million in serviced revenue. Right now, I just got paid one of my last paychecks, sitting at about 92% retention, which is awesome. Trying to get it verified. So, hey, but yeah.
So let's talk about Golden Door is no joke. Double Golden Door. There's people listening to this, or I hope they're listening to this, that's like, I'm having a hard time selling 10 in a week, right? Or I'm having a hard time selling, one a day. And what's your biggest day? Just out of curiosity. Like,
biggest day is 34.
34. How does that happen? Like, that's just, are you really knocking 34 yeses, or are you getting multiples? You get a 5-for-1s or an apartment. Like, how does a 34 happen?
It's kind of like if you've ever played basketball and the hoop just seems like it's as big as a hula hoop.
Yeah. You
just can't miss. So your pitch is on fire. Area has a lot to do with it, but also just like timing. So there's days where I go out and knock and I sell 10, but I felt like I probably could have gotten 12 or 13 had I caught those 2 or 3 people at a little bit better time in the day. They were interested, but they're running out to take the kids to school or whatever it was. So a lot of things have to align that you can control and you can't control. And so when that moment hits, you just have to maximize it. And that's where you're just asking for the ball every single time down the court. You're making every shot you can.
It's just math, right? So 34, if it's 30-minute sales close, paperwork process is 17 hours. So there's got to be, is there, do you get the single family homeowner that has 3 rental properties, or like, how does a 34 look? And I don't care if you manufacture it for a contest, but just getting the paperwork done for that many accounts? Is somebody knocking with you to help you with the paperwork, or how does that happen?
Yeah, no, 34. I mean, I had 6 by 9:30 in the morning.
Okay.
So I was on the doors. I had come off a day where I wasn't too happy. I hadn't done super good. It was Saturday I hadn't done super well, and Monday was Memorial Day. So it was on a Memorial Day holiday. So it's red flag. Everyone's home.
Companies
good spirits.
Companies got you on steroids. Yeah.
Competition. So I got out as early as possible. I ended up with 11 by 11. I think I had 18 by 2 or 3 in the afternoon. No, my pitch is very direct to the point. I don't spend a ton of time from start to finish on the actual building value, building urgency. I just get kind of to price pretty quick. Bandwagon, build price, build value, make it seem like it's a good deal, and then get to closing. And I actually probably spend as much time at the end of the sale, solidifying the account, making sure expectations are set clear, going over the contract, all of that, than I do the actual process of pitching them and presenting and closing. So yeah, you're probably 5 to 10 minutes total on each account, and then you're just next door.
And they're home, right? So just line them up, baby. Yeah, because I've had scenarios before where a rep was in a home selling, and then we tie up the sale, and then he calls me like 15 minutes later, and I'm like, impossible. LA, get in your car, drive somewhere. But I answered his questions, and he ends up it's like 12:30 at night. I'm like, dude, what's going on? He's like, man, I'm at a block party, right? Like all these families are here. And I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, hey, I think I got one more. Are you going to be up? I'm like, yeah, I'll stay up for it. But text me if it's not happening. Calls me at like 1:30, like some just product we were selling at the time. It took a little longer to sell, but I'm like, never seen anything like it. Just walked into the situation where there was a bunch of people in one spot, and I don't know if they were lubricated, but ended up being a good day. Yeah. So the adversity of doing a double golden door, and obviously coming out where you're trying to touch your ceiling, you have emotions with that, right? Like you have a goal that's meaningful, mainly only to you, because who you're competing with at that level. And you said that there was a lot of roller coaster emotions because you were trying to do something that you had never done or anybody's ever done before. What was the point in time where, if you just had a transaction, I'm sure you weren't out there knocking to pay your rent or your car payment, right? And no. After you get 300 or 400 in, you're like, okay, well, I can eat now for the year. Like, there's a point in time where the money is not involved at all. How did you deal? Well, I'll ask why you went for it, but how did you deal with the point in time you're like, do I really want to do this, or is enough is enough, right? Because what gets you up in the morning to go crush when you're at 1,500, right? Like, walk me through the mental side of doing something that's never been done before. Yeah,
for me, I almost think I'm like borderline crazy. Like
that's been established.
I almost feel like I'm a psychopath in a way, because when I'm selling at a high level and I'm selling 60 a week, it's just fun for me. I want to wake up earlier. I want to put in more time. I want to work longer. Like, when I'm selling good, it's like fan the flame and capitalize on that moment. It's when I'm not selling good that my anxiety starts to eat away at the inside. I put this pressure on myself, and it seems like there's a dark cloud over looming. And so that's the time where it's really that whirlwind of emotion. You have to have good people in your corner that are supportive, that are willing to flex and make things happen if you need to, adapt, and just somebody to kind of lean on that understands, that has done it. A high level rep that you're able to call and talk to, and he understands, even if it's just venting your emotion and kind of getting the frustration out. That was super helpful for me. But I think also for me this year, even when I wasn't selling at a high level, when I was facing challenges like, hey, we're gonna cap your contract value. You can't sell it above this much, or you can't knock that stuff. You can only knock certain stuff. Just saying, you know what, I'm just going to control what I can control. And I found people either in door to door, they either spiral up or they spiral down. So when I talk about spiraling down, I think of it like, you don't sell good. And because you don't sell good, you're now negative. You have a bad attitude. And when you have a bad attitude, you work less. And when you work less, because it's a numbers game, you now sell even less. And it kind of repeats its way down. But if you can take out the work side and you can just say, you know what? Even if I'm in a good attitude or a bad attitude, whether I'm selling good or not, like my work is just not going to change. And you can just stay disciplined to that one factor. Then I feel like it doesn't spiral down. It may not spiral up, but you're at least pretty steady regardless. So
what were some of the sacrifices that you personally had to make to go do this, if there were any?
Yeah.
I mean, married, kids, single?
Fortunately, no. Well, fortunately, because I'm not married or have kids, I was able to go out for a long period of time. I don't know. I don't think I would have been able to do it. I don't know a wife that would probably.
Or would you want to, right?
I probably wouldn't have wanted to, yeah. Sacrifices, though, away from family for 7 months, away from friends, society, hobbies, things that you're able to enjoy, 4th of July.
One-man team? Were you on your own or were you with the team?
I was on my own for about half the journey. I mean, I had a technician who lived with me.
Yeah, well, of course. Homeboy made some cash.
Yeah. And then for about the middle portion of my journey, I had 2 of my brothers and then a couple other sales guys. We had a small team of, 6 or 7 guys. So
going out knocking doors by yourself, where were you knocking when it was just you and the tech? What market?
We were in North Carolina at that time.
Okay, what part?
Wilmington and Myrtle Beach.
Okay, so not an awful part, but I'm picturing like Albuquerque, New Mexico with Breaking Bad out there just crushing doors by yourself in a shitty little apartment. Like that would be hard, right? Really hard to get up. Nobody's watching, right? It's not like they're tuning into James Lawrence and his Iron Cowboy 100 Ironmans in 100 days. And every night somebody's watching on social media, the grind, right? Mm-hmm. You're out doing something industry specific that's never been done before. And there's no reality TV show.
Yeah.
Right. You glad you did it?
It's a question I've thought a lot about. I think right now, yes, but that was one of the thoughts I wrestled with a lot. Was like, is this all going to be worth it in 10 years from now, in 20 years from now? I'm going to look back. And I got to a point. So going back to your question about like things I sacrificed and things I struggled with or challenges I faced, there was a part in like early May where I was debating actually just going home. And I'm if you got to know me, like I just don't quit on almost anything. Anybody who knows me knows like Marshall will die before he quits on anything. But things were going so poorly. I was so behind schedule. I was doing the math. I was stressing about it. I'm like, dude, I'm never going to hit my ceiling. And in my mind, my ceiling was like $2 million, 2,000 accounts. I wanted to be the first to ever do 2,000 accounts, but I wanted to do it by October 1st. So I was wrestling with the idea, do I quit and go home and regret quitting and going home? Or do I finish this, stick it out, and regret having just done something for what? Like I had already made enough money at that point.
Right.
So I don't know.
It's as a true high achiever, right? You're probably, hopefully you celebrated at some point or, I always picture the Forrest Gump movie when he's just running back and forth, just running, right? And all of a sudden one day he just stops, he goes, I'm going to go home now, right? There's no celebration. There's no parade. And you just went out there and did it. And I don't know why James Lawrence is on my head. I think I saw a social media post, but I interviewed him a few times. One of the times he said, I've never regretted a workout that I did, but I've always regretted workouts that I didn't do. And I remember because after I interviewed him that next morning, my wife gets up like 4 a.m. and she's like, I don't know if I want to go to Orange Theory. And I'm like, have you ever regretted a workout that you've done? She gives me an elbow and gets out of bed, right?
Yeah.
Like you're never going to regret the grind, right?
Absolutely.
But you would regret not finishing or not doing it. You would go back for more. That's why when people try to compete in things and they get injured or have to tap out, you go look at how many Navy SEALs had to go through buds twice, where some people, would never do that, right? But they got injured and they had to go do it again. Man, I could probably spend a ton of time with you, but we're supposed to keep these a little bit short. Let's talk a little bit about balance and burnout. And there's a debate on what balance is. And I think I think being intentionally unbalanced as life is, tax accountants are not balanced, right? Attorneys in trial aren't balanced. School teachers aren't balanced because they have school year and they have summer, right? And so I'm not saying you're supposed to do everything the same every single month. And you just said you were gone for 7 months. Did you face burnout face to face in the dog days of summer? And then how did you get through it?
Oh yeah. I mean, as much as I love knocking, and there's almost like there's fun to it, but it only lasts usually 2 or 3 weeks. And then after that, it's just a grind. And you're going into that. Like the first couple of weeks, I'm excited, like blood's pumping. I'm a little bit of butterflies first day on the door, even after doing it for so many years. But after that, it's just discipline. So like even your high level reps get burnt out. But burnt out is nothing more than a mindset. And if you have a stronger mindset of discipline and you have habits and you're, I love the saying where you can only climb a mountain as high as your why is deep. So if you want to like do something super, impressive and never done before, whatever it is, no matter what space you're in, you've got to have a deep enough why. And I actually, at one point, just like you said, a moment ago, there was a day where it just kind of hit me. And I was like, you know what? I've now lost it's almost like when a football player retires because he's just no longer doing it for the game. He's just doing it for money. There was a point where I was like, you know what? I think I've got everything I needed to get out of my system. I've got it out and it's time to go home. I went home and then 2 days later, my buddy talks me into going on a blitz. And that's when I end up finally, I guess, breaking the record, and getting over the top. But yeah.
We had a 2-day boot camp here last couple of days, recruiting boot camp that we hosted. And I had I don't know how old you are, but a 24-year-old pest control rep. He's doing pretty well. And, smart guy, educated, graduated pre-med. He's out knocking doors, leading teams. And he asked me, and if you're listening to this, dude, I'm talking about you. He was asking me basically, what else is there out there? Am I in the right space? Am I doing the right things? And he has all these aspirations, going to medical school, graduating pre-med, before med, all that puts you in a mindset of what society says success looks like. He's 24, he's got $500,000 in the bank, right? And I just said, look, man, like there's so much more to do. You will know when you've maxed yourself out here in pest control. He's like, well, what if I get there and I have the money in the bank and I have all these reps in this team? It's like, I don't want to build something that then I walk away from. Like, you're not building, you're building them. You're not building something, right? Anyway, it was good for you to say that you've just realized that point. Like, okay, I have extracted maximum amount of personal growth and development and finances out of this sole contributor role, knocking doors. Probably you have a lot to offer to the pest world and the industry. So I hope you decide to stay in it, because people need the record breakers to stay in. And it's not like we're going to wheel you out in your Hall of Fame chair and on crutches, but you still have obviously a lot to offer people who want to expand in the space. I always like to talk about raising the bar. So you might have to go back to maybe solar into pest, your first golden door. But do you remember the moment when you decided you were going to be a golden door rep? Was there a decision? Like, I interviewed somebody who's like, yeah, March 27th. Like, he knew the day, right? Sitting in his car, ready to tap out. And then somebody talked him into being a golden door and he went after that. Do you remember the moment where you changed your mindset of what success looks like?
I do, yeah. I remember this. So this was, I believe, 2019 or 2020. My first year in pest control, I just switched over from solar. I had in my mind, I wanted to sell 650 accounts, because we did the math. And if I did that, that was about 50 to 75,000 more than what I made in my top year selling solar. And that would be—
You just got a standing ovation from every pest control manager or pest control owner that's listening to this, right? It's like, that's right, pest control over solar.
Yeah, but for me, it was like solar was great because I was here in Utah. I just ran appointments. I still had, the chance to celebrate 4th of July, go to fireworks, see friends, see family, all that. So to leave the state and go knock and all the sacrifices with that, I needed to make more. And I went out with a friend of mine, and he starts selling lights out. And 2 weeks in, I get a call because I'm selling neck and neck right there with him. You know, he sells 50, I sell 45. He sells 45, I sell 50. That kind of a thing. And I get like 3 or 4 calls from the owner, like the founding owner of Fox, or like the owner that we were signed under to go sell for during the summer. And they're all just telling me, dude, you need to change your goal. And at that time, it wasn't Golden Door. Like Golden Door was a thing, but I didn't know about it.
Right.
And I think he knew about it, but it wasn't like
which is why 650 was a number, right? Like,
yeah, like 650 accounts was my goal.
Right. Isn't that?
And back then it was 1,000 accounts to get Golden Door.
Oh, 650 serviced.
650,000 revenue.
Service. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Revenue is what it's now. I think it's either or now. But in Fox, there was like 4 guys that had done 1,000 accounts prior. So that was like the standard in the company was like, if you want to be top dog and in the club, you got to go do 1,000. And no one had done it for years in our company. And his goal was to do 1,000. My goal was to do 650 accounts. But everybody kind of like raised my vision, talked me into it. And I was like, all right, let's do it together. Let's go for it. And did the math. And then going to your question, like raising the standard. I think one thing that's helped me is like not being afraid to move the goalpost. Mm-hmm. Sometimes guys make a goal and like, whether they're ahead of schedule or behind schedule, like that's their goal, period. For me, I don't know. That's not how my mind works. It's like I made the goal to do 1,000, but I did the math and I was ahead of schedule that year. So then I changed it to, well, let's do 1,000 before the trip to Hawaii with all the leadership. So I can show up and I'm already done and I don't have to go back out for a week or 2. And then when I do go back out, because I was planning on going back out because I wanted to be there when my friend also hit the 1,000, that'll just be like cushion on top. And so I changed it from 650 to 1,000, then I changed it from 1,000 to 1,100, and then I changed it from 1,100 to what I finished at, which was 1,200 that year. So
awesome. This is great. So this leads me to a couple things: competition and mentorship. Competing with somebody to do something is different than competing against somebody. How have you used competition to drive? Are you this person that looks at the scoreboard and see who's beating you and go at them? Or are you the person that looks at the scoreboard and says, what's my potential? Like, how do you use competition to drive your performance?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think in my first year I did, when I was first in pest control, I was like always making sure I was like number 1 in the company every day. I was like, that's my goal. Don't have anybody beat you. It drove me crazy when guys would beat me, or I'd paint an image of so-and-so who's in a different branch, even though I don't know him, because he's catching my tail or whatever. So competition's healthy. Now, as I kind of got closer to my ceiling, I found like, okay, like I'm not really too worried about competing with guys in Fox. Let's branch out and compete with some of the guys in the industry. One, because social media now has made everything more, like, has brought awareness. Whereas before it was like, I remember I did 1,200, came home, and then like right around the corner to Door Con, it's like December, I find out a guy did 1,500. And I'm like, what? Like, I'd never have let him beat me if I had known about that, But now social media, everybody knows about everything. So it's like using that, but also, I heard somebody say it, like, keep receipts. Like, somebody says you can't do something, whether it's a mom, a dad, a friend, your enemy, a competitor of yours that's, talking bad about you, just keep a receipt on that and go prove them wrong. But at the same time, do it for yourself. Don't do it for them. Like, you're in this for your, like, hopefully your why is a healthy enough why that revenge isn't the reason you do something. It's something deeper than that. So
yeah, it definitely puts out the wrong energy. You can succeed with revenge selling, but there's no joy. Like, I was just talking, I do a lot of consulting, a lot of coaching, and a topic came up with the client that I converted to a story that I tell about my children, where my 10-year-old, they're all studs. My 10-year-old, by the sake of that, he's got 2 more years of work done before his brothers had 2 more years. He just started earlier, right? So at just turned 10, he's better than the other 2 were at 10. And so he's playing at a pretty elite level. But when you get into that level, there are parents that aren't like my wife and I. There are parents that are sideline coaches that are putting pressure on their children. And so when the kid strikes out or grounds out or makes a mistake, they get super frustrated, kick a bat, throw a helmet, cry or whatever, which we don't do, right? My 10-year-old just hit this smoking line drive, like just barreled the ball. Second baseman makes this like unbelievable catch for a 10-year-old. And my kid gets in the dugout and he starts to cry, right? And I just walked over there. I go, hey, it's a championship game. You can sit here and cry. You can step up and be a champion. He looked at me, stepped up, started rooting on his team. They end up, they win that game, and he comes and sits in my lap. And afterwards, I sit over by a tree. He comes over after the team. I said, if you want to cry, you can cry now, right? You can cry with me right now. You can be frustrated right now. And then we got in the car, and I talked to all my boys, and I said, look, what did you think when you saw that kid make that catch? And, my younger one's like, it sucked, right? And my middle child was like, it was a great catch. I was like, it was a great catch. No, right? Like, I celebrate the game, right? I love the game. That kid made a great catch. You made a great hit. You just got unlucky, hit it right at somebody. People need to celebrate when they do something well, regardless of the competition. You might get beat. You might come in second. You might make somebody might make a game-changing play or have an unbelievable row of luck and beat you at the finish line. But if you start to beat yourself up for losing or failing or coming in second, you're missing the whole point. The way you started talking today, it just made me think, this is a game for you. It's just fun, right? And as long as you're out there knocking and you're having fun and you're celebrating, somebody's mean to you, it's awesome. I think of Forrest Gump, second time I brought that up today, but Lieutenant Dan in the middle of the hurricane, he's sitting on top of the boat and he's like, you call this a storm, right? Like he's talking to God at that moment. It's like, this the best you got? And I think, and I don't know because I've never done something like what you did selling at that level for that long, but there has to be a point in time where you just respect the game and celebrate the process. And I don't know if I have a question with that, just more of just like a monologue of competition is there to drive you to be better. And and that's what it was. You want to beat people when they're at their best. Right. And so anyway.
Well, I love on that. I mean, if anybody's read the book Relentless, From Good to Great to Unstoppable by Tim Grover, it's like if you're competing with other people, you're a closer. You're not a cleaner.
All right.
Like you're competing with other people. You think Michael Jordan was competing with other people? No, he was competing with himself. I think Kobe Bryant, like they were competing with themselves. They're not worried about what's the score. Or like, how many points does he have? Okay, I need to make sure I have more points. It's like, be the best version you can be.
Right.
And everybody has different levels of potential. Like I heard the analogy, Shaquille O'Neal was great, but if you know Spud Webb, 5'5", 5'6"?
He was 5'6", yeah.
It's like you could make the case that his case for Hall of Fame status was more impressive because he maxed out what he was capable of.
160 pounds or whatever he was.
Whereas like Shaquille O'Neal, if you put Kobe Bryant's brain in Shaquille O'Neal, how much more dominant is he?
Yeah.
Right? If he's got that work ethic and that mentality. So compete with your best version, like the best version you can be.
Yeah.
And you'll be surprised.
If you have a great day and somebody has a better one, love the game, right?
Yes.
You make a great play, they make a better one, they beat you, love the game. It drives you to go and do it more. Just like you said, if you would have known the guy would have done 1,500, you would have probably readjusted your thinking. So a couple more questions here to wrap up. Advice, right? Like, you're at a level that very few people could probably talk to you about in pest control sales. It's almost like child's play when people come in. Hey, how do you sell this? What do you do here? And you humor and you smile. There's very few people that will sit down with you and you go, yeah, you're on the same level playing. I mean, I used to play poker in LA, lots of poker. And right when it got big on TV, and I remember one time I went and sat in a game that I could afford, but I probably shouldn't be in. And within 5 minutes of just listening to the table banter to all these pros that were talking, I realized that I had no freaking clue what I was doing. Right. Yeah. And so you're at that level. So you have a brand new rep, call it a cousin, brother, friend's brother, and wants to go sell pest control. First year out. What advice are you giving them?
That's a good question. I think probably focus on learning and developing, like building the wall slow so you build it correct. What I mean by that is like, don't get in the rush to make sales at the expense of bad habits. Learn how to sell solid accounts, do it the ethical way, and learn from those around you. I think one of the things that helped me be successful is I just was so eager. When I got into solar and I was closing deals, I bit off way more than I could chew. I was 20, 21, 22. All the guys around me were in their 30s. They'd been doing it for way longer than me. I had no idea what I was doing. I worked for 4 weeks before I made my first sale. But like, it didn't matter to me because I wasn't focused on the money. I was focused on like, if they can do it, I can do it. What are they doing? And just being a sponge and shadowing them, like recording them, memorizing their pitch, and just trying to be a copycat almost. Because it's like, what? Don't go reinvent the wheel. You don't need to go figure it out on your own. There's guys that have come before you that have put the work in to really try to master the craft. Steal from them. Like, get the pages out of their playbook.
It's crazy. They'd give them to you too. They would like, here it is.
Exactly. So I think that's, yeah. And then control what you can control. Like, you can't control how many accounts you sell. People think that you can. You can't. You can control your pitch, which will increase the odds of selling more accounts. You can control your work ethic. You can control your attitude and mentality. But there's days where I've sold 18, and then I sold 3, and then I sold 21. Well, what happened on the 3 day? Nothing. Everything was the same. Weather was fine. Area wasn't bad. It was just, I don't know.
Right.
Bad timing, wrong people home. So
just happens. Hey, this has been fantastic. Marshall, I think if this is one of those podcasts, if somebody's young and in pest control, that they would need to listen to see just, I can feel your energy just by sitting here with you, and this calmness and this confidence that I can see that comes out probably on the doors when you sell. So, hey, thanks for joining this week. This will be obviously on all our channels for the podcast. If you want to follow it, Marshall, I probably should ask you this. Are you going to go out and sell for 2025?
I might go out for a few weeks with some of our reps.
Okay. So they could follow you on social.
Yes.
All right. What's your
Instagram? It's M Marshall H.
M Marshall H. Follow them. Thanks for coming in. We'll see you guys next week.